6:37, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How are your friends? Dan Mandis here along with Johnny B. Jay Harper is in for Ken Weaver. And, man, there's a lot to talk about. When to get right to Matthew Hurtt, who was at the RNC, of course, last night. You've been doing reports for us all week long, Matthew, and I appreciate that. So, number one, because we've been also reporting on the situation with the massive internet outage across the world, literally, and all the airlines have now been shut down. I'm not sure if they're starting to ramp back up or not, but are you stuck in Milwaukee? Of all the places to be stuck.
Good morning, Dan. I live in Milwaukee now. I just checked the Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport update as of about 2 hours ago. There is currently a worldwide ground stop, as you've reported on the show already. They've advised that we check with our airline. I have a 3 p.m. scheduled flight to Dulles International Airport, IAD, in Northern Virginia. But more importantly, I'm traveling with the president of Leadership Institute, and tomorrow he is planning to travel to London for their International School of Fundraising. And so, I woke up about 25 minutes ago, Dan, I'll be honest with you, and now I'm in travel planner mode, in a mild panic to see, what the options are if our flight is canceled. But this is why I do these kinds of events, not for the chaos, but because I'm pretty good at working us out of the chaos. And so that is my next project as soon as this conversation with you is over.
Well, listen, if you get hungry, from what I understand, there's a lot of cheese out there in Wisconsin. All right, so let's talk about Donald Trump's incredible speech last night. I don't want to lead the witness, but I got to tell you that if there's one word that I would use, it would be unifying.
I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America.
And what a great comment that was by Donald Trump. Talk about what you felt his speech was like.
You could tell there was a tone change. Many delegates and guests and visitors on the floor have seen Donald Trump live and in person. They've been to a rally, they've been to a conference, CPAC or something like that, and almost universally, the people that I spoke with after the convention gavelled out last night and even this morning have said that there was a noticeable tone change, probably due to the attempted assassination over the last weekend, and a number of people. I've got a friend of mine that I rode back from the convention last night with. He is not expressly political. This is his first political event, actually, a Republican National Convention. He's a man of faith, and he said, I think that incident brought Donald Trump closer to God. You could hear it in the tone. And he said, as somebody who likes to share his faith with others, said, I really appreciated what the man Donald Trump sounded like from the stage last night. It was unifying. Yep. There was a tone change. There was an element. And I think not only for this campaign, but also for Donald Trump, the man, I think this is a big change in his life that will be beneficial for him in the short term, perhaps, but also in the long term. As those who have a faith and who believe in our Creator.
Well, let me play one of those sound bites from where Donald Trump spoke about how he did have God on his side last Saturday.
There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that.
I mean, big cheers from the audience. And you're right, Matthew, about that tone change. And I was looking for the right word. Circumspect might be the right word. I don't know. But there is a definite, noticeable change. But even though the president was more subdued, if you will, the crowd was raucous. I mean, you were there. You were in the building. People went nuts.
What was so exciting about this is, again, it is the culmination of a 4-day pep rally, a 4-day party. Our delegation, the Virginia delegation, was prepped before we left the hotel. We were encouraged by state party staff. They said, this is the most exciting evening of this week, and we want you to be raucous. We want you to be excited. I'll tell you this, as someone who grew up in the late 80s and early 90s, the moment Hulk Hogan ripped his shirt and revealed the Trump Vance shirt underneath, that was a moment for me. I was absolutely excited, and it was what an experience. And as we've talked about all week, is this energy, this enthusiasm is going to drive not only Republican delegates who are on the ground, but activists to whom we will return to our local committees, and we are going to drive that enthusiasm into what is certainly going to be an uncertain couple of days,
right,
but into the rest of the election as we head toward November.
Well, you brought it up, and I played this audio earlier of Hulk Hogan. I'm going to play it again, and it really is inspirational.
What happened last week when they took a shot at my hero? And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
I mean, my word. And yeah, you're right, Matthew. He takes off his jacket, then he rips off a shirt to expose underneath that shirt a Trump Vance shirt. And I don't know how old you are, Matthew, but what I will say is my wife, who is late 30s, this was like a moment for her because Hulk Hogan was like her back in the day. So part of this may reflect an attempt to get some of those younger voters as well, perhaps.
I absolutely agree with you. And having, Linda McMahon was there as well. She spoke earlier in the week. Of course, Glenn Jacobs, the mayor of Knox County, also known as Kane. For young men in particular of an age under 42 or so, we remember as disparate wrestling organizations like Jerry the King Lawler in Memphis, and USWA, and all of these wrestling associations from across the Southeast were brought under the leadership of Vince McMahon. And this really harkened back. And of course, there is a production value to a political convention. Are the policies that they debate in Nashville and in Washington, D.C. important? Yes. Are they sometimes weighty and heavy? Yes. But for a convention, there is a production quality. And to have Hulk Hogan come out, that was absolutely one of the coolest things that I've seen in politics.
All right, real quick, Kirsten Welker said this about the RNC.
The view within the Democratic Party is one of panic and concern, and what happens next?
Matthew Hurtt is joining us, of course, our grassroots political analyst here on Nashville's Morning News. So what do you make of the report from Axios, I guess, where they say that Biden, of course, he has COVID, if you believe that, and he is in Delaware, and he is incredibly isolated. And I think that he feels isolated in more ways than one. He's isolated because of the COVID, but he's also losing his support within the party. So do you think that there is a possibility now that Barack Obama has come out and apparently also told Joe that he needs to step aside? What are your thoughts on all that?
Yesterday morning, I was for sure that Joe Biden was going to step down on Saturday, tomorrow, and I hate making political predictions. And then midday, somebody from the Biden campaign released a statement that said, Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer created this Donald Trump monstrosity, in their words, not ours, but they created this problem in the mid-2010s, and it seems like Joe Biden was going to go on offense on members of his own party. In retrospect, now looking at it this morning, I think that is the last gasp of a flailing campaign, and I think that we're still on track over the next 24 to 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, of an announcement. And the benefit of Joe Biden doing this in the next 24 hours in particular is he will try to divert, for the good of the Democratic Party, he will try to divert the positive news coverage coming out of the Republican National Convention and shuffle off the stage to leave an opening for someone else. And so that is what I'm on the lookout for as we head into the weekend.
All right, so big question is, if it's Kamala Harris, if he decides, okay, I'm going to finish out my term, however, Kamala Harris will take my place on the campaign trail. What do you think her odds are against defeating Donald Trump? I know that the polling is all over the place. It's a lot closer with Kamala Harris, I believe, than it is for Joe Biden. Thoughts?
We're wading into uncharted territory. I still think Kamala Harris is much less likable among some demographics in some states. Those will play out differently in some swing states than others. But the other question is, if they bypass her, what kind of chaos will that cause in the Democratic ranks? And we're in a place that we have never been before. And so, this election will certainly be one for the history books. And there are 2 or 3 directions it could go, and all of them are equally surprising and equally uncertain of their outcome.
Well, I know that you've seen the same thing that I have, which is that black leaders within Washington, D.C. and the political elite have all told Joe Biden and the Democrat Party that there will be hell to pay if Kamala Harris ultimately is not the nominee. So, yeah, I think that there is a lot going on within the Democrat Party, and they don't really know what is next. I got one more question for you.
Say fight!
So that's Kid Rock, right? He did one of his songs, and it was Trump driven. I found it interesting, the dynamic where you have Hulk Hogan, you've got Kid Rock, and they're out there clearly supporting Donald Trump in a way cool way. And then watching all of that production quality and incredible excitement, then I think back to the deranged Robert De Niro. And say, for example, some of these other nut jobs on the left from the Hollywood elite who just at this point, they look irrelevant and quite frankly, silly. In a minute or less, are the conservatives the cool kids again?
To bind all of what you just said with a statement from Van Jones on CNN last night, where he said Amber Rose's speech on Monday night was the most dangerous threat to the Democratic coalition. All of that is very interesting because it shows a different direction culturally for Republicans that will increase appeal. It will broaden appeal to people who have either checked out from politics or they never tuned in or they never gave Republicans a shot. And that's an exciting opportunity. But for a political organizer like me, it's a little scary because they've never been involved or they haven't in a long time. And I have to figure out how to guide them through the process so that they are productive and successful political activists. That's my concern heading out of the convention.
All right, Matthew Hurtt, how can people follow you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter at Matthew Hurtt, MatthewHurtt.